Good morning, students. So continuing with the ongoing chapter, that is excretory products and their elimination, right? So today we are going to discuss about the mechanism of concentration of the filtrate. Means the urine is becoming concentrated. Okay. So how the urine is becoming concentrated? What is the mechanism behind the same? For that we have to see to this diagram. See, listen students, I have told you this is nephron. So nephron we have already discussed in the last class. There is a Bowman's capsule, then you can find the proximal convoluted tubule, Henle's loop, distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct. So this is the structure of what? This is the structure of nephron, right? Now when you are moving on to the structure of nephron, you have to see to it that just in the nephron itself you can find they are surrounded by what? The blood capillaries, especially the Henle's loop, that blood capillaries. So this red part is what? The blood capillaries. So this blood capillaries, if you see, what do we call them? We call them as vas rexha. Okay, so vas rexha is the term which I used for the capillaries which are surrounding. So that this is vas rexha. Actually we have drawn it separately, but it will be somewhat here. Okay, so vas rexha is just surrounding what? This Henle's loop. Now listen, actually how is the urine getting concentrated? I told you this is the descending limb of the Henle's loop and this one is the ascending limb of the Henle's loop, isn't it? But the vasa rexha, if you are seeing, this one is the descending, okay, and this one is the ascending. It's opposite or not? Here it was descending, then this was ascending, right? But here in the vasa rexha, this one is descending and this one is ascending, which means this one is descending and this one is ascending, okay. So this is how the name we give it as counter current mechanism. The flow is in opposite direction. One whose is ascending, the nearby it will be descending, okay. So when the you are seeing that the ascending limb of the Henle's loop, so this is the ascending limb of the Henle's loop. This ascending limb of the Henle's loop, if you are looking into, they are permeable to electrolytes, that is especially the NaCl and urea is playing a major role in maintaining osmolarity. So osmolarity, I told you how osmotic pressure has to be maintained. For that ions and water is only responsible. So here NaCl and urea is playing a major role in maintaining osmolarity in the medullary fluid. Medullary fluid means what? Inside the medulla, kidneys, medulla, the fluid which is present, they should maintain what? A particular osmolarity, because of which only concentration of urine will be taking place, okay. So when the if you are seeing this ascending limb of the Henle's loop, they are impermeable to water, but they are permeable to salts and ions. So NaCl is moving out, okay. So the NaCl which has been moving out of the ascending limb, so you can find it is exchanged by whom? The NaCl is moving into the vas rexha. So into the vas rexha what is moving? NaCl is moving. So this is here, isn't it? So actually this part will be here only, but we are separately drawing it. So the NaCl which is moving out is moving into where? It is moving into the vas rexha which is present over here, that is into the vas rexha. What is moving? NaCl is moving in, right? Now this NaCl which is moving in is loaded, this part of the blood is loaded with NaCl is coming to the ascending limb. So descending limb of the vas rexha, NaCl is moving in from the ascending limb of the Henle's loop. Is that clear? I will again draw and show you. So actually this, where is this vas rexha present? This vas rexha is present over here. So the NaCl which is given by the ascending limb is taken by the descending limb of the vas rexha, okay. Now the vas rexha is having what? NaCl, and the ascending limb of the vas rexha is coming in contact with the descending limb of the Henle's loop. Now what will happen? I have told you this Henle's loop, when you are seeing, the descending limb is permeable to water but not to electrolytes. So water can go out. Why the water is moving out? Because you can find here NaCl, concentration of salt is more, isn't it? So how the concentration of salt is more? From here the salt is moving into the vas rexha. So NaCl is moving into the blood, you can find it is loaded with salt. Now, wherever salt is present, if you keep water, what will happen? The salt will absorb the water or not? Yes, isn't it? So, like that you can find what is actually happening is that the water from here is moving out from the descending limb of the endless loop is moving out, which is taken by whom? The Vasareksha. Okay. So, into the Vasareksha what is moving? The water is moving. NaCl is going okay, and in NaCl is present over here. So, NaCl facilitates the absorption of water. So, what will be moving into the Vasareksha? The water will be moving into the Vasareksha. Okay. So, like that they are helping in concentrating the urine. How? I told you. So, when you can find here the Henle's loop is permeable to water, the water will move out, it will become concentrated. But when it is coming over here, they are not permeable to water, but they are permeable to salt. The salt will be moving out, so the solution will become much dilute. Another thing which you have to notice that the ascending limb of the Henle's loop also absorbs on the top part. What they do is that they also take in urea. What they are taking in? Urea. So, when they are taking inside much amount of urea, it is becoming concentrated, and again this urea is gradually coming down to the collecting duct. In this collecting duct, in order to maintain the osmolarity, okay, osmolarity I told you, how much amount of water and salt regulated, pH balance, ionic balance has to be regulated. So, for that what happens is that from the collecting ducts water is reabsorbed. Okay. So, when the water is getting reabsorbed, so automatically what will happen? The concentration of the urine will increase, the urine will become much concentrated. Along that you have to note that the urea is also moving out to some extent. Little amount of urea also moves onto the medullary fluid in order to maintain osmolarity. So, like that the urine which is coming out will be having much amount of urea, less amount of water in case if it is summer. Thereafter all the waste nitrogenous products will be moving out of the collecting duct and it will enter into the ureter. From there it will be moving into the urinary bladder and it will be moving out. Hope this is clear. Why this mechanism is called as counter current mechanism? Because I told you the flow is opposite direction. You can find the filtrate is moving descending, ascending, but the blood is moving opposite, descending, ascending. Okay. So, that is why we call it as what? Counter current mechanism. Salt which is given from the Henle's loop, the ascending part is taken by the descending part of the Vasareksha. Salt loaded blood is coming over here. So, water from here is absorbed by the salt and it is being taken out. Okay. So, the water is moving out. This is concentrating the urine. Urea also, when it is reabsorbed here, you can find it is concentrating the urine. Urea is being taken over here along with the water molecules, much amount of water molecule is reabsorbed by the collecting duct and hence the urine is becoming concentrated. So, now we are going to discuss mechanism of concentration of the filtrate. So, Henle's loop and Vasareksha play a major role in filtration, isn't it? The flow of filtrate in two limbs of the Henle's loop is in opposite direction. Yes, I told you one is moving in this direction, the other one will be moving in the opposite direction. So, the flow of blood through the two limbs of Vasareksha is also different, isn't it? So, because of which there is a counter current pattern we have discussed already. The proximity between these Henle's loop and the Vasareksha, proximity means what? They are in close contact, they are very close to one another, okay, as well as the counter current in them help in increasing the osmolarity where in the inner medullary incision, in the inner medulla the osmolarity increases. Osmolarity here you can see as you go down it is 1000 osmoles, 800 osmoles, 600 osmole, 400 osmole. So, when you go down the osmolarity is increasing because of what? Because of the counter current mechanism, okay. The above described this one, yeah, this gradient is mainly caused by what? NaCl and urea. NaCl is transported by the ascending limb of the Henle's loop, I told you, which is exchanged by whom? The descending limb of the Vasareksha. NaCl now is returned to what? This interstitium. So, NaCl which is coming over here is returned to the interstitium, so that the water from the descending limb of the Vasareksha is going out into the interstitial fluid because of the presence of what? The salt. NaCl is present, that is why. Okay. The above described transport of substances facilitated by special arrangement of Henle's loop and Wasserreichs is called as countercurrent mechanism. This is very important 2-mark question. Okay. This mechanism helps in maintaining concentration gradient in the medullary interstitium. Human kidney produce urine nearly 4 times as concentrated. So, from the Bowman's capsule, the filtrate which is we are getting it, from that how many times they are much concentrated? They are 4 times concentrated. If here it is 100 ml is collected, you can find 4 times less will be present in case of what the filtrate which is coming out through the urinary bladder outside. Okay. So, they are concentrating the urine. For that, what is responsible? Countercurrent mechanism. Who is responsible? Countercurrent mechanism. And one more thing we discussed, similarly small amount of urea enter the thin segment of ascending lymph. I told you in the ascending lymph urea also enters, isn't it? And Henle's loop which is transported back to the interstitium by the collecting tube. So, collecting tube is again transporting the urea back into the interstitial fluid. The one which is entering, some extent it is transported back to the urine, means interstitial fluid. So, what do you mean by this interstitial fluid? You can understand, isn't it? So, in the cortex, the fluid which is present over here, the fluid which is present over all these places, we call it as what? The interstitial fluid, right? So, countercurrent is clear, I think so. So, here the NaCl which is moving out is taken by the Wasserreichs. The Wasserreichs is bringing NaCl to the ascending part. From there the NaCl is moving out and it is getting filled here, NaCl is loaded here. Now, when the NaCl salt is more, automatically they will absorb water. So, what will happen? The water from here will be moving out and the urine will become concentrated. Okay. So, hope this part is clear. Next, we are moving on to the next topic, that is regulation of urine function. Regulation of kidney function. So, 3 regulations are there, how the kidney is regulating the glomerular filtrate, how much to excrete, whether it should be concentrated or dilute, everything is being regulated by some mechanism. Okay. So, especially the regulation is done by the nervous system. Other than that, there are some other functions also which are regulating our kidney function. So, you see, when an excessive loss of fluid, so fluid from my body is lost at a lot. So, the blood is having less amount of water now. The blood is moving to the brain. Where it is moving? It is moving to the brain. So, as usual, when the blood is being pumped, it is reaching the brain as well. So, when it reaches the brain, the blood vessels having less fluid is being detected by some of the receptor cells. Receptors means there are cells which receives the signals. Okay. So, the receptor cells which are present in the hypothalamus is sensing that one, and immediately when they sense that there is less amount of fluid in the blood, so what they do is that they release a hormone by dictating. So, hypothalamus which is present in the brain, hypothalamus last year you would have learned in the brain part, isn't it? So, the hypothalamus will dictate one of the major gland present in my body, endocrine gland, that is pituitary gland. Okay. So, the pituitary gland which is present nearer to the brain only. So, this pituitary gland, when you are seeing, is having 2 portions. What are the 2 portions of this pituitary gland? One is the anterior pituitary and another one is the posterior pituitary, isn't it? So, the posterior pituitary is producing a hormone called as antidiuretic hormone. So, what is the hormone? Antidiuretic hormone. Who is producing? It is being produced by whom? This posterior pituitary. Under the influence of what? This hypothalamus is dictating the posterior pituitary to release a hormone called as what? Antidiuretic hormone. The posterior pituitary is also called as neurohypophysis. The anterior pituitary is also called as adenohypophysis, which you will be learning in your chemical coordination chapter. Okay. So, I repeat, when the fluid in the blood is less, when the water is less, the blood vessels which is taking blood to the brain, the hypothalamus is detecting that the water is less there. So, immediately the hypothalamus will dictate the neurohypophysis to release a hormone called as antidiuretic hormone. Other name of that hormone is vasopressin. Okay. So, this vasopressin will be released into the blood. Now, this vasopressin loaded blood, when it is moving, immediately what they do is that they go and tell the kidney to reabsorb the water. So, in case the water has left the Bowman's capsule and has reached the tubules, means from the tubules they will be reabsorbed. Reabsorbed means you can understand they will take back the water. So, how this glomerular filtration rate is increasing, much amount of filters are produced and then much amount is reabsorbed, how it is taking place. Actually what happens is that the kidney ADH, when it is released, so you know the glomerulus, isn't it? The glomerulus, the blood vessels which are broader will become less, means they become narrower, which process we call it as constriction of the blood vessels. So, when the constriction of the blood vessel is taking place, the narrow the blood vessel is taking place, fluid was passing through here, now the narrow size has reduced. So, what will happen here, the pressure was less, isn't it? So, here the pressure was less, but here the pressure is more, because the narrower the size is. So, when the size decreases, so automatically you can find the pressure increases, isn't it? So, there creates an increase in the pressure. So, when the glomerulus, the blood vessels of the glomerulus is having high pressure, so what they do is that they help in, so here with high pressure in the glomerulus, they help in much amount of production of what? The glomerular filtration rate will increase, which means the ultrafiltration, glomerular filtration will increase. Okay. So much amount of water, salts, everything is getting filtered where? Into the Bowman's capsule, and thereafter by the proximal and the distal convoluted tube as well as through the Henle's loop, the water is getting reabsorbed. So, when the water is getting reabsorbed, what happens to the blood volume? The water gets in, isn't it? So, when the water gets in, the water is getting filled in the blood vessels, and the water which was scarce there is being fulfilled. Okay. So, like that they are helping in regulating what? The kidney function. So, I will read out. ADH facilitates water reabsorption from later part of the tubule. I told you, from later part of the tubule. Preventing diuresis. What do you mean by diuresis? Excessive loss of fluid. Without sugar, only fluid is going in between you feel like urinating. So, that disease we call, if this ADH is not produced, then you suffer from that disease. Okay, diuresis. Loss of water from our body in the form of urine. An increase in body fluid can switch off the osmosis receptor. So, this ADH, after taking much amount of water inside, thereafter this ADH should be removed, means the ADH should not be produced much. Then what will happen? All the water will be reabsorbed and the urine will become much concentrated. That also will cause some trouble to the kidney, stomach pain and all will be there, isn't it? So, that will switch off the osmoreceptor which are present in the hypothalamus. When they are finding that the body fluid has come to normal, so blood fluid has come to normal, then the hypothalamus will stop producing antidiuretic hormone and the reabsorption process at a high fast rate what is taking place will stop. Okay. So, that is a feedback. ADH can affect the kidney function by constricting effect on the blood vessels. I told you they constrict the blood vessels, thereby increase the blood pressure, as well as they also increase the what? The GFR, that is glomerular blood flow, and the glomerular filtration rate is increased. Another one mechanism by which kidney is regulating the urine formation is renin-angiotensin mechanism. So, what is renin-angiotensin mechanism? Listen very carefully. This renin-angiotensin mechanism, there is a group of cells which are present. So, you can find the structure of the Bowman's capsule. This is glomerulus, isn't it? And this is the afferent arteriole, and this one is the efferent arteriole. Nearer to that of the afferent arteriole and the glomerulus, there are special types of cells. Just beside them, you can find a special size, type of cell present, which we call it as JGA, justglomerular apparatus. What is the name given to it? It is given as justglomerular apparatus. When the the blood is afferent arteriole is moving into the glomerulus, here this sort of cells, when they are detecting that the blood which is moving in contains less amount of water, the water has to be regulated now. Okay. So, automatically what happens is that the GFR, the glomerular filtration, there is a drop. Okay. So, if there is a drop means what? Filtration rate has dropped, the water concentration has dropped, fluid is less in the blood. So, immediately the JGA, that is the juxtaglomerular apparatus, what they do is that when they are detecting the pressure is less, okay, glomerular blood pressure is less, when the filtration rate is less, so immediately the JG cells, that is juxtaglomerular cells, will release a hormone called as renin. So what they are releasing? They are releasing a hormone called as renin. When do they do so? When they are seeing the blood pressure which is exerted by the glomerulus is less. So automatically they will release a hormone called as renin. This renin will convert in the blood the protein which is present, which we call it as angiotensinogen, which is inactive, is getting activated, and they are forming a complex called as what? Angiotensin 1, which is further converted into angiotensin 2. So when there is a reduction in the blood pressure, so blood pressure is less, immediately the juxtaglomerular apparatus, what they will release? They will release renin into the blood. This is a hormone. This hormone will convert angiotensinogen, which is present in the blood, into angiotensin 1. This angiotensin 1 will get converted into what? Angiotensin 2. Okay. And this angiotensin 2 is a powerful constrictor. Constrictor means what? They constrict the blood vessel. Vasoconstrictor means they constrict. So blood pressure, in order to, when they are finding that it is less, so in order to increase that, they will constrict the blood vessels. Okay, so it's dilated, this is constricted. So they are constricting the blood vessels. So automatically the blood pressure will increase and the GFR will also increase. Okay. So angiotensin 2 also activates the adrenal cortex. I told you adrenal cortex means what? You have a gland called as adrenal gland. So on the kidney on the top we have discussed, isn't it? There was a gland. The gland name was given as what? The adrenal gland. So this is what we call it as what? The adrenal gland. Okay. So this adrenal gland, from there you can find one of the hormone which is released is aldosterone. What is released? They are releasing aldosterone. This, what they do is that they help in reabsorption of Na plus, that is sodium ions and water, from the distal part of the distal part means what? From the distal convoluted tubule, collecting duct and all, they are helping in reabsorption of sodium ions as well as the water, so that the fluid in the blood will increase, the blood volume will increase. Okay. So this also lead to increased blood pressure and GFR. I told you how. The complex mechanism is generally known as, this mechanism we call it as what? Renin angiotensin mechanism. Clear? So first one was ADH is regulating kidney. Okay, both are what? They are increasing the blood pressure, they are increasing the glomerular filtrate, and they are increasing the reabsorption. Right. Now another thing is that the renin angiotensin mechanism increased. Okay, the blood pressure cannot be increased and it cannot remain that long in an increased state. If it goes on increasing, then it can cause damage to the kidney. So in order to bring back to the normal, it has to be done by some set of hormones or some set of structures, right? So who is doing it? It is carried out by the heart. In the heart there is a factor which is present, we call it as atrial natriuretic factor. Atrial natriuretic factor. So ANF, atrial natriuretic factor. So when the blood is moving into the heart, when it is coming to the heart, if the heart is understanding that the pressure is much higher, so immediately the heart will release a factor called as what? Atrial natriuretic factor. So what they do is that they help in vasodilation. Vasodilation means they will dilate the blood vessels, thereby reducing the pressure so that it is not harming. If it is vasoconstricted for long, then it can affect the internal organs. So it has to be dilated and brought back to normal. For that, who is playing a major role? Atrial natriuretic factor is playing a major role. They are causing vasodilation, that is dilation of the blood vessels. Okay. So when the blood vessels are dilated, so automatically it will decrease the blood pressure. The blood pressure is coming down. Okay. So ANF mechanism therefore acts as check on renin angiotensin mechanism. So they are acting as a check. Check means renin angiotensin mechanism, what they are doing? They are increasing the blood pressure as well as they are increasing the GFR. In order to bring back to normal, in order to reduce that one, who is playing a major role? This ANF is playing a major role. Next we are moving on to micturition. Micturition is the process by which the urine is ejected out of our body. That process we call it as what? This micturition. That is, the process of release of urine is called as micturition, and it is a neural mechanism. Sometimes when you see, to some extent you can control it, but sometimes it becomes uncontrolled. Since it is an involuntary activity which is controlled by the brain, involuntary muscles are playing a major role there. Okay. So, urine formation by nephron is ultimately carried to urine, urine is produced where? In the nephrons. After production, it is going to the collecting duct, from there the ureter, then it is going to the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder where it is stored, okay. Till a voluntary signal is given by the central nervous system, it is stored there. The signal is initiated by stretching of the urinary bladder at its. So, when the urinary bladder is filled less, it is fine, but when it is filled much, then what happens is that it is urinary bladders, the muscles will start to stretch, okay. So, in response, the stretch receptor on the walls of the bladder sends signals to CNS. Immediately when the muscles start to stress, so there are receptor cells which is giving the signal to the brain, okay. So, brain is sending the message, come on, initiate the contraction of the smooth muscles, involuntary muscles, let it get smoothened, okay. So, contraction, they start contracting, bladder start to contract and relax. Thereafter, the urethral sphincter, that is through which the urine is passing out, that causing what? They release the urine, okay. So, that is controlled by whom? The central nervous system, and it is an involuntary activity. When the urinary bladder is filled, it sends a signal to the brain says, come on, the muscles, smooth muscles start to contract and relax and release the urine through the urethra, okay. An adult human, you can find on an average per day 1 to 1.5 liters of urine is passed. If it is done so, he is healthy, okay. The urine formed is, you are light yellow colored watery fluid. It is somewhat acidic in nature, pH is 6 below 7, so it is acidic in nature, and they are having a characteristic odor. Yeah, they have a smell, isn't it? On an average, 25 to 30 gram of urea is excreted per day. How much amount of urea is excreted from our body? 25 to 30 grams are excreted from our body. So, when you are doing the urine test, if you are finding glucose in urine, which means you are having diabetic. So, another name is glycosuria, okay. Sometimes ketone, a chemical compound will be present in the urine, then they are suffering from what? Ketonuria, okay. So, these if ketone bodies are present or glucose bodies are present in the urine, then you can understand that the patient is likely to have diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus, that is nothing but sugar as we call, isn't it? Next, role of other organs in excretion. Other than the kidney, some other organs also help us to excrete some waste from our body, okay. So, the first is the lungs. Lungs, when you see, carbon dioxide is in waste, isn't it? It has to be given out from our body. Carbon dioxide, if it is accumulated, it will lead to poisoning. So, this carbon dioxide has to be excreted out from our body. For that, who is playing a major role? The lungs are playing a major role. Along with the carbon dioxide, when you just exhale, if you just exhale into a mirror, you can find water is also coming out, isn't it? So, some amount of water is also excreted from our body. Liver, which is the largest gland, in the liver, what is produced? Bile juice is produced. Actually, this bile juice, when you are seeing, in the liver only the red blood cells are broken down and it is converted into bilirubin, biliverdin like pigments. Extra cholesterol, steroid hormones, vitamins, drugs, whatever is present with the blood, through the blood, when it is reaching the liver used to extract these all things and use it in the production of what? Bile juice. Now, this bile juice, where they are putting in for digestion, you have learned, isn't it? So, into the small intestine, the blood, the food is coming to the stomach, from the stomach it goes to the small intestine, then it will go to the large intestine. So, in the small intestine, the liver is opening. Who is opening? The liver is opening. The bile juice which is secreted by the liver is put into the small intestine, isn't it? So, along with the undigested food material, what is going on? This bilirubin, biliverdin, excess cholesterol, degraded steroid hormones, vitamins, drugs are moving out of our body, okay. Another one is your sweat. Sweat is also playing a major role in excretion. Sweat is excreting salt, yeah. So, Small amount of urea is excreted, lactic acid is excreted by sweat. Okay. So, when you sweat along with the water, these things are also going out of our body. Sebaceous gland, oil glands which are present in our body, that oily skin some you people have, means their sebum secretion is more. So, the sebaceous gland is help in water, excreting some substances like steroids, hydrocarbons, waxes, all these things are excreted by this what is that, sebaceous gland or the oil glands. Disorder of kidney functions. Okay. So, there in case there is some problem with the parts of the kidney, you have different diseases. One is kidney stones, you would have heard, isn't it? So, stones or insoluble mass of crystallized salts like oxalates, calcium crystals and all. If it is present in the kidney, then the condition is called as renal calculi. What it is? Renal calculi, which is otherwise simply called as kidney stone. What is the treatment for the same? So, this kidney stone is formed because while the kidney is filtering, you can find the kidney, the salts which are being reabsorbed is getting stored in some places, and when the storage increases, so much amount is stored, you can find in that they form crystal like structures and it turns into what? The kidney stones. Okay. The next is glomerulonephritis. What is the next topic? Glomerulonephritis. So, this is a condition which is noted when the glomerulus, if you are seeing the glomerulus, it is inflating because of some reason, because of some infection by some bacteria, and in that case glomerulus will inflate. Inflate means they swell up. Okay. And when they are swelling up, automatically pressure will increase and will lead to kidney malfunction. Okay. So, that is one. The next is the renal failure. The kidney is stopping to function automatically. You can find only one possibility is there, either you go for transplantation or you can go for what? You can go for dialysis, isn't it? So, that is kidney failure, the nephrons are not functioning, the filtration process is lost. It can happen because of old age or because of some other infections which can lead to the same. Okay. Metabolism differences can lead to the same. Alcohol consumption can also be. So, that is regarding your disorders of excretory system. Malfunctioning of kidney can lead to accumulation of urea. If the urea is not excreted, kidney is not properly functioning. So, urea in the blood will increase, isn't it? So, this urea, if it is increasing in the blood, it lead to a condition called as uremia. Okay. So, it is very harmful and it can lead to the total kidney failure. So, what has to be done in these patients is that we have to go for hemodialysis. We have to dialyze the blood. So, artificially in the external environment, we have to take out the blood from the person, filter it outside, and thereafter again we have to pump the blood into the patient. Okay. So, the blood is drained from the artery, pumped back to the dilation unit after adding anticoagulant heparin. Then after the dialyzing fluid has done all the filtration process, everything is being done, it is given back to the patient's body. Okay. So, that is what is taking place in case of dialysis. I will show you, I will explain. Listen. So, this is the patient whose kidney is not working properly. So, from her artery, actually what we are doing is that we are taking out the blood, impure blood, isn't it? So, after taking out the impure blood, the blood is pumped into a dialyzer. So, in the dialyzer, like in the interstitial medulla, the salt, ionic concentration, all these mediums, what and all should be there, like that all the things are maintained where artificially in the dialyzing unit, here it is maintained. Okay. So, they are adding a heparin. Heparin is an anticoagulant, means if the blood is coming outside, when the blood comes in outside, there is a chance for the blood to coagulate. Coagulate means they form clots. So, clotting should not take place. In order to prevent that clotting, what is added? Heparin is added. It is an anticoagulant. So, clotting will not take place, and thereafter the blood is pumped into the dialyzing unit. Here actually what kidney does? They filter, isn't it? So, the filtration is taken place. They are filtering the waste materials. After the urea and all is getting filtered, the blood is pressure and all is particularly maintained, and the pure blood is pumped into the patient's body. Through the veins it is moving into the body. So, here when you are seeing the what we are doing is that the kidney function is done by a machine, so dialyzing machine. So frequently this patient has to, okay, periodically, depends upon how much the kidney is not functioning, weekly once, monthly once, like that they have to come and go for what, this dialysis process, in order to get their blood purified, because accumulation of blood with urea will lead to a condition, uremia, bad breath we call, from the mouth and all, it will smell very bad, okay, and that is a dangerous disease which can affect the other organs as well. So in order to prevent that one, you can go for either kidney transplantation, donor should match, and if it is not possible, we have to go for what? We have to go for dialysis. With this, we are winding up with this chapter. Hope you have understood the chapter well. Thank you.